I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about something that has been weighing on me, obviously, all weekend. Charlie Kirk. I mentioned in a video I did a TikTok and then I posted in other places that he was right about empathy, and a lot of people are justifying his murder, like, oh, well, he didn't have empathy for anyone else, so I don't need to have empathy for him. And he preferred to have sympathy for people rather than empathy. And I can play that clip for you guys. That a lot of people are taking out of context and just, taking off the end quote. I think we, played it on Friday. But this ideology of you have to feel the pain of this person, or you're bad and you have to affirm their pain and feel their pain and basically enter into their, psychosis. You have to believe the things that they believe. And if you don't, then you're cruel and you don't love them. And if you don't love them, then you don't deserve the vote and you're a bad person and you're hateful and you're bigoted and apparently you deserve to die, is where we're at on that whole thing. So Charlie Kirk, he was not hateful. He said some things that were controversial, but in context, you can still think they're controversial, but he was able to make a lot of sense and articulate his viewpoint. And I love that there's so many people who are turning to God because of Charlie Kirk. He would be so happy. So if you went to church this Sunday because of Charlie Kirk, know that if you gave your life to Christ, he's rejoicing with the angels, So I'm glad to see that there's some silver lining there. But the attitudes and the behaviors that continue from the left about this are horrific. JD Vance, he hosted Charlie Kirk's show today, and I have to play for you something that's been on my heart too. He said there can't be unity with these people. I want to unify, but as long as they believe that violence is okay, we as a nation can't unify under that. I don't want any sort of unity unless there's accountability. That's how I feel. From Democrats, I want them to apologize for their radical left-wing ideology and indoctrinating their voters and continuously lying, saying that Republicans are fascist and all kinds of different stuff. So I want there to be a change. But I don't think there can be unity without repentance. And to repent means you're godly sorrowful. That's what I want for this nation. But in the meantime, everyone's like, oh, empathy. I'm sick of people using it to manipulate people. So that's going to be the main topic of the day. But before we jump into it all, I'm in my sister's studio. If you're wondering why the background and stuff is a little bit different. So this is one of her paintings behind me. And she's actually in the next room painting and listening. And she's in the chat. But I'm in her studio, so that's what the different background is. She had a different painting behind her, and she's like, "No, let me get a painting that's finished that someone can actually buy." So I'll let her put her stuff in the chat where you can find her stuff. But she has good stuff. Go ahead and support her. But if you like what I do here, guys, you can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. Like I wrote an article about Charlie Kirk. There will be more articles about Charlie Kirk, believe me. If you do like what I do, you guys can leave a donation on the website because it does cost to stream. It costs to run my website and all that stuff. You guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. I do have something I have to do, a trip that I'm going to take. I don't want to it'll make some really good content. I don't want to say when I'm going, and I don't really want to say over the air where I'm going. Privately, I'll tell some more folks or subscribers or whatever. And if they want to support, I'll give them more detail. But I'm just not saying more things for security reasons. And I was like, am I being a little paranoid? I don't think so. I don't think so. So it'll make some really good content when I get back from this trip and stuff. So I'm excited. But I will need some help to go. So if people can support, you guys can go to the website and help out with that. So thank you to everyone who has supported and watched. And as we all share this national tragedy and trauma with each other, I hope you guys had a decent weekend. But I've been pretty consumed with this. I mean, I had a good time at church on Friday and on Sunday as well. And that was a topic of conversation as well. My cousin opened up the service on Sunday. He asked to open up. He's a minister, but he doesn't usually open up because he does play the piano too, but he asked. And he talked about how this really shook him and how it really did scare him. And he never really had fear before, but this made him afraid. He's like, Lord, what happens when I go to different places? And if, he does influencer stuff too. If I travel, I say stuff that people don't like, someone could try to take my life. And so he just kept praying and praying, and the Lord began to comfort him, and just know that even if he did lose his life for the Lord, that's sometimes required. It's just a reality. They crucified Christ, they'll crucify you. But at the same time, you have to trust in the Lord also that he can protect you and provide for you. So we're not supposed to walk in fear. God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. And as he was just talking, some things had weighed on my heart. Some fear, other things had popped up, and I was grieved and stuff too. And so I was actually supposed to sing a different song. I was supposed to sing Holy Spirit, You Are Welcome Here. I think, I don't know if I know Kim Walker-Smith does it. I don't know if it's her song. A lot of people have covered it. But as he was talking, I was like, I'm going to change it. And I sang, You Make Me Brave. And because sometimes we need the Lord to help us along in that area. And we still need to go out and do what is required of us. And I hope people aren't afraid to speak up. I hope people are more encouraged to speak up. And by the way, I'm seeing people with different platforms online. They're like, I've never said this before, and I'm ashamed that I haven't said it before, but I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. And I've seen so many videos like that on different accounts that are like book talk or exercise platforms, or just daily in the life stuff. And so I'm very proud that there is this positive reaction, but we know on the other side, it's not the whole other side of the aisle, but unfortunately it's not just fringe weirdos. There's so many people who have come out and expressed joy about Charlie Kirk, or mocked Charlie Kirk, or saying that he doesn't deserve people's tears or whatever. Someone from the Washington Post just got fired for their comments on Charlie Kirk. There are teachers getting fired for the sort of comments they're making, people who work in the fire department, people in the HR department, just all kinds of crazy folks just out and about loudly proclaiming on social media that they're proud that he's fired. Now, there are people who are making parody videos. Like I saw a parody of this guy claiming to have gotten fired from Microsoft. His account says parody. So some people sharing that, there's some people just kind of hopping on a trend for views or whatever, but there are people legitimately being fired for that. And I have feelings about that. I don't know how everyone on the right will feel about it. I think the consensus on the right seems to be, you guys should have a taste of your own medicine about that. And I'm seeing some people on the left who are like, oh my gosh, you guys are into cancel culture now, who literally were celebrating people being canceled like a month ago. The hypocrisy is just unreal. And maybe we'll get to that. It depends. I'm going to be ranting about this one particular topic. I anticipate the whole entire hour. If not, I will give my thoughts, I guess, on the cancel culture stuff in the specific example that I'm referencing. Otherwise, I think I'll save it until tomorrow. Someone said doctors and nurses. Yeah, doctors and nurses, people who are supposed to save lives, are also celebrating that someone was murdered. It's so bizarre. I'm really in the book talk community. Well, I have a small account on for my book talk site. It is growing though. Um, there's a lot of authors. I saw the Daily Wire write about one particular author who's pretty big, who's just deranged. She was deranged after Trump won. Being mad about the person you don't want to win not winning and lashing out is one thing. You know, lashing out at someone who was assassinated is another. But there's a block list, and there's people burning books, throwing them away. Some people are taking their books and they're selling them, and then they are donating the money to Turning Point USA. I've seen a lot of people do that. One woman, she was just cussing all the people out, just ripping up her books, and she's like, "They're my books. I know I already paid for them. I don't care." Bleep 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 bleep, and just threw them in the trash. So there's people really upset. There's some people who are trying to 1-star people's books. I don't agree with 1-starring people's books. And I would hate for people to do that to me. I know someone like left some negative comments on my stuff due to like other views outside of the actual books before. Amazon and those places will remove those reviews anyway, guys. And Goodreads is not allowing people to remove books from their TBR list. From what I've seen, that's not right. That's not fair. If people want to remove the books, they should at least be able to remove the books. But they are protecting people from like giving negative 1-star reviews. I don't think we should review bomb. I think it's fine if you want to destroy your books or whatever. If you want to vocally trash these people online, I would understand screenshotting the comments or whatever and emailing their publisher. I would understand that. I just don't think people should 1-star the art. I think it's separate. So that's just my opinion. As someone who writes, I would, some people love to review bomb and that's their way of lashing out. I just, I think you can keep that separate. But there was one author that I saw who hasn't talked about any kind of topic politically or whatever. And she's like a best-selling author. I can't think of her name. But she did a video just saying like, I write stories about, overcoming evil and compassion and all kinds of different things from people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And I just, think it's sad that we can't all condemn basically that someone was killed for his voice. And there are people who push back. There are people who unfollow her. There's a lot of people who decided to follow her and then go buy her books and support her. But I think it's really telling because she did a follow-up video saying that other authors and people in the bookish community had contacted her and said privately that they agree with her, but they're too afraid to speak up. So they're not going to say anything. So they're just going to support her like privately in what she's doing. It says something that people on the right or in the center, because she didn't seem like she was on the right. She made it seem like she's just kind of like moderate center or whatever. It says something that they're afraid to speak up just to say, hey, it's wrong to politically assassinate people for the things that they say. This wasn't even a politician. It's a private citizen who voices opinions. It's wrong to do that and wrong to celebrate it. They're afraid to say something like that. But these other authors are proud to get up and talk about this stuff, talk about Charlie Kirk, and be so heinous and mock him and be gleeful about what happened. I think it says something about our sides. And those people are definitely on the wrong side of things. And it's funny that these people who are celebrating his death are the ones who think that they're not bigots. They think everybody else is. They're the ones who say that they're inclusive. They're the ones who say that they have empathy and compassion. And they're the ones who always stand up for the other and the oppressed. They're those people. They are those people. Now, there's some people who are Democrats on the left or whatever who are floored at this reaction. And I've seen people say that they're embarrassed by a lot of reactions that folks have. But again, this isn't fringe meme culture on the internet. It's not. There's a lot of people, prominent people like in the media and also academia who are, and again, nurses and doctors on all these folks doing it with their real faces and their real names. And that really shows that we are in a very seriously dangerous place in our country. I'm going to go ahead and start off by playing JD Vance's video. He hosted Charlie Kirk show today, and I just saw this as I was like putting everything together for the show. So I want to this is hot. This is like how I feel. And this is definitely going to make news. And I'm like, oh my gosh, JD Vance, the vice president, says he doesn't want to unify. It's so dark. It's so divisive. You need to listen to what he has to say, and you need to understand it, the whole thing, not just the first couple seconds. This whole segment where he talks about unity and how he wants to unify, but we cannot unify with people who cheer at political assassinations. We can't do it. So I think Charlie Kirk would have got a real kick out of the vice president of the United States hosting his podcast. But here we go.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree. Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years. I am desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. I want it so badly that I will tell you a difficult truth. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
Amen. Amen, amen, amen. And the media's reaction to that on MSNBC and other places they're probably not going to like that. And it's so dark, it's true. It's true. How am I supposed to unify with someone who would cheer for me to be murdered? How do we come back from that? And on the author's video, there was someone who was criticizing her, like, oh, you never talked about other people dying before, and he's so special. What makes him so special that you ignore all this other stuff? And that is such a tiresome argument. Like, people aren't going to talk about every single tragedy and address it every single time. But I was going back and forth with her for a while. And this is a grown woman. This isn't like a 14-year-old on Twitter. It's a grown woman with an account. And she's a book talker. And I'm like, you are not dense, like this dense that you cannot comprehend this. Like, you are old enough to understand that this is a newsworthy situation. Because like, other people have died, other people have got killed, other people. I'm like, how many people have been assassinated for their beliefs, private citizens assassinated for their beliefs while they were debating in front of all those people? It's caught on camera. So many people have watched it on 4K. So many people have watched it. And on top of that being traumatic enough, people are celebrating it. So there's a whole new layer of messed up. So beyond the ideology of the person who did the deed, there's all these people who are celebrating it. And these people who celebrated it, they're like, oh, well, that's not one of us. That's like someone who was on the right. It's like, what do you mean? Like, oh, we don't know his ideology. What do you mean we don't know his ideology? Michael Knowles, his show today was fascinating. he talked about how he had a relative who's left wing who messaged him and said, "Why are you blaming the left for what happened to Charlie Kirk when he was MAGA?" And he said this relative was sincere, misinformed but sincere, and he brought up some polling about how there's people who, a good chunk of Americans, who believe that the shooter was MAGA. And there's different articles and different folks who are trying to really hide it and just report that his family were Trumpies or whatever, and, you know, religious and all that stuff. How many folks do you know who are left wing who don't share the same values as their parents? How many people do you know? So just because your dad voted Republican doesn't mean that you voted Republican. But that's the route that they're trying to go. But his ideology is obvious, and they're trying to hide it. And they're trying to hide it because they don't want to talk about why Charlie Kirk died. And they don't want to let people understand the real Charlie Kirk. And that's why there's all these articles with quotes with no context, or just really, really chopped up. All these spliced videos. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's worse than like some of the worst political ads that I've seen. How people are slandering Charlie Kirk and his words. It's disgusting. But they're doing that because they want to convince you that he died because he was so hateful and his views are so extreme. And be like, you know what? He kind of had it coming. He kind of had it coming. That's how they want to paint it, because they don't want you to know that he died because he's a God-fearing Christian man. That's why he was killed. And I don't mean in the sense that he died because he loves Jesus, because he believed in the man Jesus or whatever, who is God, and he died for your sins and he rose again. That's not what I mean. I mean, he died because he was a Christian who lived out his beliefs publicly and boastfully, courageously. That's why he was killed. And he allowed his beliefs to inform his politics, his worldview, and he spread it, and he was effective. That's why he was killed. And the people didn't like his ideology, didn't like his beliefs that were informed from the Bible, and they thought it was hateful. I think people say my views are hateful when I talk about LGBT stuff too. They say it's hateful. And he was killed by a gay man dating a trans woman. And they were into that LGBT and furry weird culture and all that stuff. Got indoctrinated on the internet, left-wing ideology. They can't hide all the stuff because it's going to come out in trial. And, you know, the governor's been going on the news on CNN and actually saying it. But now the new thing is to say, well, that doesn't matter. Now the new thing is to say it doesn't matter. Well, it does. It does. That's why you're lying about it. That's why you're lying about it. And I don't know how many other people are going to be swept up in the investigation, because I saw Fox and stuff reporting it today about the different messages that they would be sending to each other or whatever. And it seems like people knew after the fact, or perhaps before. I don't know how many people is going to get caught up in it. But you know what? Trump's going to do what he can for his homie. You know, someone today, I saw a video of a black guy who's like, people like, oh, why is Trump doing all this stuff for Charlie Kirk? He's just a private citizen. He's like, man, if my friend died, my homie died. He's like, I'm doing all kinds of stuff for my homie. I'm building monuments. He's like, everybody gonna know about my homie. And so there was a lot of like humorous comments, you know, on that video. But it's like, yeah, that was the president's friend who was like another son to him. And people pointed out like, yeah, I'd be really doing stuff for my homie if they helped me get the job. And Charlie Kirk did. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA was so different than so many organizations, because a lot of organizations will just go, they'll have someone to go on TV, say a couple of words. They might get a contract from the RNC or whatever to say that they're doing stuff, but they won't really do a lot of stuff. And they'll take the money and they'll make it seem like they knocked all these doors and did all this stuff, or they'll just wait to the very end to get active. but even like when you door knock, this is something that bothered me when I was like working in the political field, and you would door knock, but you're just there to gather data. You're just there to say, oh, did you vote for this person? Like, I ask them a few questions, you log it, and you move on. And that stuff is important, but you're not going door to door to really convince people to vote. You don't have the time. Charlie Kirk devoted his life year round to trying to convince people to vote Republican, or not just Republican, live conservatively, to embrace the gospel, to live as God would want them to live. That was his life's mission. All year round. Not when, oh gosh, midterms are coming up, November's coming up, we need people to knock doors and get this info. No, he worked to persuade people. So Turning Point USA was very effective. I was very concerned if they were going to be able to do the turnout. Guess what? Trump won. And there's this huge cultural shift with this new generation. And I think we owe that a lot to Charlie Kirk. And as people continue to defame him, I think people are going to continuously get curious about him. And they're going to continuously keep looking up in context his actual videos. And then people are going to see that, hey, I've been lied to. I've been lied to. If these people will lie about this, what else have they lied about? And that will red pill a lot of people. It will. It will. So even today, I was out walking, and I saw some people that I see all the time. Like, they walk, like, I don't know why they're like there every day when I do my walk or whatever, but there's this group of elderly people, and this guy was like, have you guys heard of Charlie Kirk before all this happened? And one woman had, or whatever. And I was like, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt. But, I knew Charlie Kirk. What happened to him has made me sick. And the reaction to it from people, I feel like those people cheering for his death would also cheer for mine. I'm like, he wasn't a racist. He wasn't, all this stuff that the people are saying about him. They're taking stuff out of context, and they thanked me for my perspective. They seem like they're kind of more on the right, but maybe not really, really, cued in or whatever. But I'm sure they'll tell the tale of the Black woman who stopped to talk about Charlie Kirk. It's just, he's going to have a profound impact. This is one of the most significant things that have happened in my lifetime. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm really not. People are like, other people have died. He's not more important than everyone else. He's not. We are all inherently valuable, made in the image of God, which a lot of folks don't believe in that. He did, I do. But there is a subjective value on top of that people do place on top of each other. But it's not just who he was, it's how he died and the reaction to it and the smear campaign. It all plays a part. So I want to talk about this empathy situation. As I gear up my video, I do want to say that I saw a comment about a painting party that I suggested, because my sister Tina, she does do painting parties, and we talked about doing it virtually. I have not sent out the interest form thing yet. We still want to do it. We'll get the details together and ask you guys, like, participants. Thank you for letting me know that there's people out there who want to do it. So we'll definitely do it and get tickets together and stuff. How it would work is I give like a share link to people, and they would like come in like StreamYard and stuff. And I'm assuming most people would probably want her to send like the stuff to them to paint or whatever. And then she would there'd be like a 2-hour session, and she'd pick something kind of simple and teach us how to make it and help people along the way. She does this in person all the time. She's going to start doing it virtually. So we'll probably be among the first. So it'll be cool. And I think it'll be a fun time. So I'm I'm glad that there's some interest in that, but she is very talented. So people have been very mad about Charlie Kirk and all this, his comments or whatever that they're taking out of context. And there's one line that he had about empathy that people will not finish the quote with. And as a matter of fact, first time I saw, I think the full quote, someone had wrote just the chopped up quote in one of my videos, and my sister Tina was like, finish the quote, like Green Goblin, finish it, you know. And she wrote the rest of the quote about how he preferred sympathy to empathy. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip from his radio show. I'm assuming, I don't know, I guess this is about election stuff. I'm going to start maybe, I think midway is probably fine.
And so there's collapsing in Ohio. It's collapsing. Even in Arizona, it is now a race where Blake Masters is in striking distance. Kerry Lake is doing very, very well. The new communication strategy is not to do what Bill Clinton used to do, where he would say, I feel your pain. Instead, it is to say, you're actually not in pain. So let's just very short clip. Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time. Here's cut 65.
Okay, so that's the line. And they only tell you that he doesn't like sympathy. They don't tell you that he prefers, they tell you that he doesn't like empathy. They don't tell you that he prefers sympathy. And they don't tell you that he thinks that people use it for political purposes. And he's correct. He's absolutely correct that people use empathy for political purposes. I would assume the context of this clip when he's mentioning Bill Clinton is that the Democrats, they used to be about empathy. I feel what you feel, which they're still about that. But I think this context is about economics, because there was a time when Democrats were like, no, the economy's fine. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The economy's fine. Like, it's great. Even though people were like, no, it sucks. Like, what are you talking about? Eggs. Like, you've seen the price of eggs. The economy sucks. Like, what are you talking about? So there was that time, as you guys probably recall, that they were just kind of pretending that everything was fine, everything was great. And when that wasn't working, then they had to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe some things are bad, and it's shrinkflation, and they're making up all kinds of excuses and stuff. So I'm assuming that is the context. They were talking about economics. And that's why I mentioned Bill Clinton, who's a very good politician, whether you hate him or not. But we know that in general, they do politically use empathy all of the time. And I talked about this a bit on Friday, how people will say to me, oh, how can you feel that way as a Black woman? How can you not want, the trans people to use your bathroom as a Black woman? You know what they go through. How can you not want them to play on sports teams? How they treat trans people is just how they treated Black people and didn't want them to play in sports and other things like that. People have said these sorts of things to me, trying to weaponize my race against me, telling me how I should feel about different things and how I should feel their pain, and their pain is like my pain or the pain of my ancestors, and we should all be on one side, and I should affirm their feelings, and we should all just feel and not think. Some people are criticizing Charlie Kirk's the explanation of the empathy thing, because they're like, okay, well, that's still bad, because empathy, you get to feel what they're feeling. You want to feel their emotions. And if it's sympathy, there's still this distance between you. Like, you feel bad about it and you understand them, but there's this distance. Okay, you can't feel what I feel unless you've been in my shoes. You can't feel what I feel unless you're in my shoes. I posted a video about the empathy on Facebook, and someone said, I have chronic pain. Unless you know what that's like, you don't know what it feels like. You don't know what it feels like. But, if you have sympathy for someone, you can hear them out And you're like, well, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I can understand that's difficult. And sometimes you need to have that separation so you can still say, but we need to think logically about this. Like how, so sometimes you just want to hear people and let them have, let them grieve, let them mourn. But politically, sometimes you need to hear people give their grievances and then come up with a real solution as opposed to just obey my feelings. Empathy is why we have so many people who say a man can be a woman, because he feels that way. He feels what it's like to be a woman. He can't know what it's like to be a woman. That's ridiculous. He cannot, never. But we have to affirm his feelings. And if you don't, you're a monster, and they're going to unalive themselves. You have to let the little girls chop off their breasts. You have to let the kids sterilize themselves for empathy, because we feel their pain. Okay, well, I can be sympathetic to the fact that they have these different feelings and delusions and feel this discomfort in their body, because everybody has felt at some point growing up a little awkward about their body. That's not unique. So I can understand you on some level. But I still have to be able to think. I still have to be able to think and say, hey, you know what? You might regret chopping off your breasts. But no, I went down this Reddit hole. I saw these videos on TikTok of people, of women, putting chest binders on. I saw these videos, and it's been a few days, and now I'm going to find someone who affirms my feelings and get the hormones from Planned Parenthood in like 48 hours. Empathy. This nonsense. Sorry, it's nonsense. It's political nonsense. And they'll weaponize it. They will weaponize it and force you to comply. And if you don't, then you're a monster. You're a monster. It's going to be my mission to be like, no, empathy is bad. And I guess when I die, they'll be like, she said empathy is bad, and not show you anything else that I said. Probably not show you anything else that I said. Empathy is why Ben Shapiro, I've talked about this clip a lot. I know you guys have probably seen it before. I'm going to show some of it. I'm going to talk you through it. I don't want to play too much of it because I don't want to get dinged on copyright or whatever. I might still get dinged, but we'll see. Once upon a time, Ben Shapiro went on Dr. Drew's show some years back. And this is where the facts don't care about your feelings line was born. Okay. So on the Dr. Drew show, they were talking about Bruce Jenner, who had recently transitioned into Caitlyn Jenner. And Bruce had won, or I'll just say Caitlyn, I don't know. I'll switch back and forth. I don't know. Had won an award, right? And I don't remember what the award was, but the discussion was about whether Bruce deserved to win the award because he had just transitioned into Caitlyn. And you just kind of got in the space, and all of a sudden you're getting this award for your bravery or whatever. And that was just the discussion about whether he deserved it or not. And Ben, I don't know, and I don't even think Ben knows why he was asked to sit there on the show. And then he just was quiet for a lot of the time. And then he was like, okay, why are we mainstreaming delusion? And then the folks are just kind of like, what? It's kind of like the emperor wears no clothes, or the new clothes, or whatever it's called. And everyone's like, oh yeah, this. And then he's just a little boy, like, what do you mean? He's stark raving naked. Like, what do you mean? Like he was that person in that situation. By the way, I would be that person in that situation. And he's like, all of his chromosomes are a certain way. That's a man. He's not a woman. And why are we mainstreaming this delusion? And he got into it with Zoe Tur, who was, or is a man who is pretending to be a woman, quite bigger than Ben. And then he starts saying, like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And if you keep saying that stuff, you're going to go home in an ambulance. And he put his hands on Ben. And Ben said, well, that seems like rather extreme for a discussion. I can't take how much of a nerd this boy is. That seems rather extreme. Like, this dude just put his hands on you, threatened your life. And you're still like a nerd mode or whatever. And he's like, would you like to discuss your genetics, sir? And then after Ben was threatened by Zoe Tur, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic there. After Ben was threatened by Zoe Tur, everyone turns to Ben and is like, that was so mean. You knew that would rile Zoe up. No one had any condemnation for Zoe Tur putting his hands on Ben Shapiro and threatening him with harm. Because they're taught to have empathy for Caitlyn, empathy for Zoe. And if you don't get into the we feel, where the feeling was, if you're not in that box, then you're a bigot. Isn't that interesting? You're the bad person. You're uncaring. You don't want us to exist. Just all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and play like the end of that conversation, just so if you don't know that reaction, because I still see clips of this sometimes circulating around like Twitter or whatever. But I want people to see the reaction that people had to Ben, because it is really jarring and very interesting. And I would hope all these people are ashamed today that they didn't say like, dude, that's not cool.
Syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on genetics.
Would you like to discuss the genetics? Or no?
Well, no,
What
no.
are your genetics?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
No, I know. Well,
Yeah.
but wait. To be fair, but to be fair, you're actually being
Hey,
kind
guys.
of rude.
You're
and that-
no.
and that's not fair.
I'm sorry, it's not rude to say that someone who's biologically
called
a
me
male
sir.
is a male.
You just
Someone
called me
who's
sir.
biologically male is a male.
But Mr. Shapiro, you
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Actually, to be fair, you're being kind of rude. It's so fun, bro. I hope this man is embarrassed.
you knew very well that
What
saying that to Zoe would be egregiously
Inflammatory.
insulting.
It's not a male.
You knew that it would be so insulting. There was also a woman on the panel who said something like, "Oh, you knew it would be very insulting." Like, how could you, Ben? No condemnation for the threat of physical violence. And he put his hands on Ben too. I'm assuming to demasculate him or whatever, as he sat there in a dress. Just really wild. But that's empathy, guys. Ali Sucky said she wrote a book called Toxic Empathy. My sister said, oh, that's not my sister. But yeah, Toxic Empathy in Action. I'll have to pick up her book. I haven't read it. But it's true. That is what empathy will get you. At least how they use it politically. Empathy, it's amazing who you are supposed to have the empathy for. Because it's not for the oppressor, obviously. It's not for the colonizer, obviously, which is interesting because Frederick Douglass, once he was saved, he understood that everyone needed salvation, and God put love in his heart for everyone, including the slave master. So, for all you Christians who don't understand why so many people are mourning Charlie Kirk, I invite you to go read the words of Jesus. Like what good is it that you can just love the people who care about you? You're supposed to be able to love your enemies as well. You think that's impressive that you love the people that you care about? Go read the Gospels. They threaten physical violence when you won't say and think what they want you to, period. It is not just that. They might threaten you with physical violence. They might actually do physical violence. But in the case of the trans stuff, they will say, if you don't affirm, you are committing actual violence because they might go self-harm. So they're still the ones committing violence, even upon themselves, and it's your fault. That is some deep emotional manipulation. You have to affirm me or I'm going to kill myself. So your words are violence. That's why that's why in a lot of people's eyes, it's okay for what happened to Charlie Kirk, or they're at least not going to mourn him, or they're going to celebrate it. Because, oh, he hurt so many different people. That's what one of the authors said. Like, we feel relieved. So many people feel relieved because he hurt so many different people. Okay, not all feelings are valid. I'm sorry if someone told you that. Not all feelings are valid. They're not valid if they're informed by lies. I can't respect your feelings if they're informed by lies. I can respect that you're stupid. I can respect the fact that you were misinformed. I can have sympathy for that, I guess. I can have sympathy and pity for that. And we can try to get you on the right track. But your misinformed feelings, I'm not going to let rule me. I can try to acknowledge it, but but you're wrong. They're not valid. They're not I can acknowledge you feel the way that you feel, but I won't respect it if it's informed by a lie. I'm going to correct you. I'm not going to empathize with you. I'm going to correct you. I'm going to continue critically thinking about the situation. You're not going to manipulate me. And it's funny. I am just so sick of this stuff because it was a light bulb that clicked. I'm like, empathy is why all these people feel so entitled to tell me how I'm supposed to feel as a Black woman. And they get offended when I don't feel the way that they've given me permission to feel. That's what it is. Shut up. I'm an individual. Don't treat me like a project. Don't treat me like a pet. Don't treat me like a group. I'm an individual. I have my own mind. I want to show you some other clips. Since we're on the subject. Okay. This guy was a radical left-winger who was radicalized by online culture, the man who killed Charlie Kirk. People were trying to pretend like he wasn't on the left. They were probably so bummed out when they're like, it was undeniable that they probably were relieved when they found out he wasn't trans. They were probably so annoyed to find out that he was dating a trans man. I'm going to play a few clips. You've probably seen these before. I know some of them I played on Friday, but I want to reiterate some things. So they already said that a family member said that Tyler Robinson, who was the shooter, that he would go to dinner and he'd talk about how Charlie Kirk was hateful, right?
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
Okay, full of hate, spreading hate. Just a reminder, I'm told that all the time. If I say that marriage is between a man and a woman, that is spreading hate. If I say that a man can't be a woman and he doesn't belong in my bathroom, that's me spreading hate, and that's violence. It's me denying people's existences, all that stuff. There was this interview that with a neighbor who said, yeah, confirmed, yeah, that they're gay.
There's some published reports out there that this individual, the roommate, may have been transitioning. Did that correlate with what you saw?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so he was going to have an operation to be to turn into a woman.
Yeah, and I think he's getting ready for that.
Sorry, what way do you think that?
I remember them talking about a doctor's appointment. It was about 2 weeks ago, I would say.
And they were kissing?
Yeah.
Do you know where did you see them kissing?
Just coming out. I was riding with my bike, so I didn't see the whole thing, but yeah, they were. I saw them.
And when did you hear them talking about a doctor's appointment?
I would say about the same time that they came out. So that one time, yeah.
Where were you standing for that?
I was just riding by here.
Okay.
So.
And you were able to hear snippets of their conversation?
Yeah. Yep.
But you were sure that they were a couple, but you have only seen them together once?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, random guys don't hold hands and definitely don't kiss. So I would have tried to stop him if I knew it was him, like before.
Yeah, so yeah, like, well, are you sure? Like, you only saw him one time and the other couple? Yeah, random guys do not kiss and hold hands. Sounds kind of gay, guys. Sounds kind of gay. Though, since he was transitioning into a woman or claiming to, I suppose they would say that that actually makes him a cis straight male. But no, they're two men. They are homosexuals, and one of them identifies as a woman, but you don't know what it's like to be a woman, identify as a woman. You can't know. Sorry, empathy doesn't get you that. That's silly. You can maybe relate to certain aspects, but you'll never know. You'll never know what that's like. So we know that this person was ideologically on the left. And again, he thought Charlie Kirk was hateful. The things that he said were hateful. I've said this before. I'll keep saying it. Charlie Kirk probably was not assassinated for his tax policies and what he thought about tariffs and, welfare reform and Medicaid funding. When people say, oh, they have hateful ideology, this was a gay man dating a trans person. What do you think a lot of that hateful bigotry that they assumed was rooted in? I'm not saying that he didn't think other things about Charlie Kirk. Maybe he thought that he didn't like black people and all this other kind of stuff, but let's be freaking for real. Let's be for real. And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, he didn't like gays, he didn't like trans. I'm going to show you guys a couple of videos of Charlie Kirk addressing people on the subject, just so you can see how extreme, quote unquote, he was on the issue of these different topics. So let's start with this one here. You guys can just let me know if you sounded so hateful.
So I do not have hate for a group. I do not have hate for a people. I hate
just so I can get it on my camera. So
don't worry, we got plenty of cameras, but yeah.
But yes, so you do not hate the LGBT community, and Turning Point is not against LGBT.
No, how could I hate that which I have a heart for?
Thank you.
And I might not agree for some of the lifestyle choices that some people make, but of course not. And if someone said, Charlie, what's your view on marriage? I say, I believe marriage is between one man and one woman. But if you ask me, what do I have hate in my heart for somebody that doesn't choose the lifestyle that I believe that God laid out in the scriptures? Of course not. So I do not have hate.
Beautiful. Just a beautiful way, I think, to put it. How can I hate what I have a heart for? How can I hate what I have a heart for? Okay, I'm gonna play another one. This is a great clip.
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy? Because I don't know what's true, what's not.
Tell me, are you comfortable telling me your story?
I've known that since like 3rd grade, and I'm currently 19, almost 20. I've known basically since then. I didn't start going by like a different name until 7th and 8th grade. I just don't know, like with the whole medical stuff, like what's true, what's not, what's helpful.
So I also want to point out that Abigail Schreier, if you read her book, I have her book at home, but you can find interviews. I was going to play a clip, but it was the Joe Rogan interview, and they really flag you for that stuff on YouTube. But she talked about women and how women, especially if they're in friends group that are into this ideology, that they are so susceptible. That's because women, they are more empathetic creatures than males are, and they will feel, pain, each other's pains and each other, stuff more than like guys will. And so you might find different groups of people who are like cutters, and other things like that, doing kind of self-harm, or friend groups who are like anorexic or whatever. And now you have friend groups of people who are doing the transition stuff. One of the saddest videos I've ever seen is a group of girls together, like in a park, and one of them has a microphone, and she's just, I'm just want to announce that I'm a boy, and her little friends just start like clapping and cheering. I'm like, why is it exciting to not be a woman? And it was so sad to me. But you get your little clique, and you go on from there. And if I guess you can't find your clique, you go find a new one who will affirm your sort of worldview, and online or wherever you got to go to get it. So I just want to add that the empathy stuff really leads in this direction of, oh, this is how they feel. This is how I feel. Oh gosh, maybe because they're like this, I'm like this. And you will see like groups of people who will emulate toward each other, and really social contagion is what happens.
Because I've heard so many different opinions.
First of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body.
Mm-hmm.
I instead encourage you to work on what's going on in your brain first. I think what you need first and foremost is just a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Just someone that is going to listen to what you've gone through, listen to what else is going on. My prayer for you, this, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born.
Yeah.
I know that you might not feel that way, but I think that is something that you can achieve. I think that with the right team and the right people, you don't have to wage war on your body. You can learn to love your body.
I saw someone talking about that clip, and it was someone who had a pretty negative opinion, I guess, of Charlie Kirk. And then they start looking up some stuff, and they're like, I'm really embarrassed by my take that I had before. Well, they're like still on the left, and they would like to have debated Charlie on some stuff. And they were like if you watch that video, it's really positive toward Charlie, but they still, I don't think he said damage in that clip, but he still had captions or different comments of like, he says, that she'll damage her body. And he said, I thought that was a really loaded term. And I was annoyed by that kind of commentary. I guess, if you're having a conversation, you could ask someone to clarify, like, what do you mean by damage, and go from there. But people become like lifelong pharma slaves, doing all this sort of alteration stuff to their body. And they're obviously like morphing it in a way it's not supposed to be. And they're taking these different hormones and things. And I think it's pretty obvious that it's damaging, but it's made me start thinking about other ways that leftists will object in police tone or whatever. And sometimes people will be like, oh, don't police my tone or whatever. And it's people on the far right. And I'm like, when I criticize them like that, you don't need to say stuff like that. And they're like, don't police my speech, like my tone, how I say it. I'm like, you can talk to people better than that. But sometimes when you're having a debate, maybe you guys have heard conversations like this. If you're like having an abortion debate and you use the term baby, they'll say that's a loaded term. That's an emotionally loaded term. Baby? Like people get so offended if you use that term. Like, it's not a baby! Because people do have an emotional connection to what a baby is, and they want you to dismantle that and just see it as a clump of cells, a glob of goo or whatever. And it's like, but it's true though. It's true though. That baby that's like growing in your womb that you will cuddle and hold, like that exists at conception. So why can't we just, it's not nothing. It's not a doll. It's not a twig. It's not a xenomorph. Like, why can't we call it a baby? It's so strange because they don't want you to have empathy or even sympathy for that human being while it's in the womb. That is so selective. You're supposed to keep it all to the woman. And if you direct it somewhere else, they will come at you. And then they'll accuse you of not actually caring about babies. They'll say, you don't actually care about women and you don't even care about the babies. You don't care about the babies when they leave the womb. You don't care about them. You don't care about the kids in foster care. I'm like, you don't even care enough about the kids in foster care to know that kids in this situation will just be adopted into families and they don't go to foster care. Foster care is when you become a ward of the state because you have to be removed from a household. You don't, get born and go directly into foster care. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. So you even know enough about the topic. But I always thought that was weird because people would accuse Charlie Kirk of that. People have accused me of that, but I've seen people accuse Charlie Kirk like, you don't care about kids after they're born. And I've seen people put it in different comments in his pro-life videos all the time. And that's always very strange to me. Because my thought process goes, one, it's a lie. But they have to make it seem like you don't care. Because if you don't care, they can attack you. Verbally, physically. If you don't care, they have the right to attack you. So they want to make it seem like you don't care, first of all. But it's a lie. So many organizations, so many groups care about people after they're born. One time I listed all these sorts of things that I do, my church does, and people are like, oh my gosh, why are you putting out a resume? After you asked for it? I'm like, oh, okay. After that, I'm like, these people actually don't care if you do good things. My sister Tina, that's her painting in the background, by the way, someone blocked her because she said that she does donations and stuff to a pregnancy crisis center. Like, oh, a pregnancy crisis center. Oh my gosh, a radical. Block. I thought you guys wanted us to care about the babies and the mothers. If we're buying diapers and clothes and wipes and cribs and all these blankets, all the things that they need. All these things that these struggling mothers want, who perhaps want to keep their babies. They just don't know how. They just need some help. That's a block on social media. You're so offended by that. You're so offended by that. But anyway, I think it's weird because even if Charlie Kirk didn't care about people after they're born, like on some kind of like emotional level, even if he didn't like donate or advocate for any, even if he didn't care, even if no pro-lifer cared, even if I didn't care, at least they're like, don't kill that person. If you never cared about me a day in my life, outside of the women way, if you never cared, never thought about, it was never like, I'm never going to donate, I'm never going to help her in time of need, I'm not going to pray for her, I'm not going to do anything, I don't care about her, I don't care. At least, at the very least, the one thing I would want you to do is be like, it's wrong to kill her, don't kill her. I can get by, I'll learn how to survive on my own. I don't need your empathy. Perhaps I don't need your sympathy. Okay? I'll get by. But if you believe it's okay to kill me, like if you took away my right to life, and then if someone killed me and then took away my justice, that would be wrong. At least, at the very least, care about my life. So I always think that's weird. When people are like, you don't care about the kids after they're born. At least they don't want to murder them. You want to murder them so you don't have to care. That's the pitch. I don't want to have to take care of them. Their mom doesn't want to take care of them. Oh, well, they're going to be a social burden on society. Just get rid of them. I don't want to think about them after I have them adopted, thinking, oh, where my kid be out in the world somewhere. I just want them gone. That's the whole pitch. So you want to kill them so you don't have to care. And you're mad because we actually do. That's the thing. But they're so empathetic, guys. They're so flippin' empathetic. There's another video. There's two more videos I want to play for you guys. I can't remember if I played this one on Friday.
Hey, Mr. Kirk.
Yeah, maybe I did. It's a couple minutes long, but here we go.
Thanks for coming out tonight. I got a question for you real quick. Up until about 5 years ago when gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events. It seems to me and anyone who's paying attention that conservatives just believe whatever liberals believed 5 years ago. Right now, there's a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and...
Lady Maga, I'm pretty sure was no. Was it Lady Maga? There was a drag queen I remember I think it was a Turning Point event that got kicked out or got stripped of like VIP access or something. I know I wrote an article about at the time. I just don't recall, but let them continue.
Oh, excuse me. Don't shut off.
Go back to your notes. That's probably where you saved it. You got to like push double tap and then go over.
Right now, there is a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and rebranding pedophiles as minor attracted persons. 5 years from now, will you be promoting child drag queen shows? Will child abuse become part of the conservative platform?
Boy, that's a slippery slope fallacy if I've ever seen one. First of all, I've never invited a drag queen to come to any Turning Point USA event. I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady Maga came up, and I took a picture, and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much. Let me ask you another question. Should he return the money of Peter Thiel, an openly gay man who supports his campaign?
No, if it helps him strategically,
okay.
Sure, he can.
Should he stop talking to Tammy Bruce, who's an open lesbian that's a Fox News contributor?
If it's affecting his ideas, then probably, yeah.
Okay, so you say you're a Trump supporter, yet you have all these issues and these disagreements with him. Let me be very clear about my position. My personal position, I'm a Christian first and foremost, then an American, then a constitutionalist, then a conservative, in that order. I believe marriage, biblically, if we want to have a biblical and theological discussion as articulated in the greatest book ever to exist in the history of the world, the Holy Bible. Marriage in the Holy Bible is one man, one woman. I also do not believe in the sort of rhetoric that some people engage in, that all of a sudden that they say there's no place for gay people in the conservative movement. I do not believe that. And let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question then?
Sure, go for it.
So, the American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans. That's what we're conserving. I'll get to you later, though. Don't worry. So let me ask you a question. What if you had your way? What would you do with gay people in America?
What would I do with them? I wouldn't.
Yeah, because they're not allowed in the conservative movement. So would you just kick them out anytime they show up at a Republican Party? If you were in charge, like what would you say? You can't be part of the Republican Party.
If somebody is advocating for being openly homosexual, yeah, they should not be part of the conservative movement.
So I just want to go through the list. Guy Benson, no place in the conservative movement. Dave Rubin, no place in the conservative movement. Peter Thiel, no place in the conservative movement. So that just to go down the list,
if they're supporting open homosexuality.
So I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is.
So let me ask you a question.
Are you a Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
Now, he was very firm in defending like Peter Thiel, Dave Rubin, those people being in the movement. Rob Smith is a gay man who's been, he had words for like Stephen King, who slandered like Charlie Kirk, saying he wanted to stone gay people and stuff. So Dave Rubin confronted, he's been on the warpath for Charlie, man. Standing up for him because they were his friends. I don't like. I obviously want them to get delivered and saved, and I'm sure Charlie, wants them to live biblically as well. I really don't like how they got their babies. I firmly reject that. But Charlie, all these people were like, he's so hateful. He was so homophobic and all this stuff. Does Charlie sound hateful toward that side? No, obviously not. Obviously not. But they'll lie. They will lie. So they can justify why he was killed. So they can justify why he was killed. I got one more clip for you guys.
I don't care if you want to go wear a dress by yourself. Go ahead, knock yourself out. But if you're going to force me to use pronouns that aren't true, teach my kids things that are materially or biologically false, then we have a serious problem. And so I guess it's the most important question, and you know it's coming. What is a woman?
I didn't see that coming. So I guess obviously we're going to disagree, like definitionally. A woman is somebody who identifies and performs with what society agrees with as a woman. And there's it's not a safe world for trans people.
It's not it's not a safe world for those of us that criticize trans people. That's what.
I disagree with that too. I think everyone should be safe. I don't think that anybody should have any violence shown against them. I categorically disagree with any violence shown against people. All I'm saying is that these people just want to exist.
Okay, and we will exist in reality. We are fine with live and let live. They want to say live and let us rule. You must use our pronouns. You must allow us into your locker room. You must allow us into your sporting competition. If not, you're a bigot and we're going to penalize you.
It's not just penalize you. It's murder you. It's murder you, or at least cheer when you're murdered. Charlie's saying it's dangerous for us to disagree with the trans ideology. He was obviously correct. How many of you women out there enjoyed that man telling you that a woman is someone who performs to what society says that they is a woman or whatever? You're just a performance. You're just a show. It's so ridiculous. But you have to be so empathetic to the self-ID and all that stuff. That you had to twist the word woman and separate it from sex, which, by the way, gender and sex, if you look at the etymology of that word, they were just interchangeable. Adding all of these qualifications to what an extra stuff to be a woman so it could be so inclusive. I have a hair tie in my hair right now. If you use a hair tie too much, as you keep opening it up to wrap around your hair and stuff, it starts to wear. And when it wears too much, well, it might just end up snapping. But it starts to kind of lose its shape. And then eventually it will just be kind of useless. If you keep stretching the definition of a woman to fit in anyone who feels like it, which again, you can't feel like a woman if you're not a woman, you're going to make it useless. But that's the whole point. That's the whole point. But you'd be so empathetic that you say all this stuff that doesn't make a lick of sense. If you see Dean and Parker, they're pretty torn up about, allegedly torn up about, I don't know how much was performance, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because Parker was there. It's very traumatic what happened. So, they're on the left and they're upset about what happened to Charlie Kirk. But if you listen to their definition of what is a woman, it's so contrived and so stupid. And I'm like, you kids are smart enough. I think a lot of stuff that some folks say online is stuff that they cannot possibly even believe, but they debate. They get paid to debate. They get their views and their clicks from debating, and people send them gifts in their lives, and they have to twist themselves into pretzels so they can, I don't know, come up with these definitions and sound like they're really smart, but it sounds so stupid, just so stupid. And it's not too far off from what this guy said about like, oh, it's a performance, it's social standards, et cetera, et cetera. And they just demean what it means to be a woman, and it's sickening. It's sickening. But Dean and Parker were following Charlie Kirk around, and there was like a Unbleep America tour. So I'm still with JD Vance. Like, we can't have unity with people who. I'm further than JD Vance. JD Vance said we cannot have unity with people who cheer for violence like that. I agree with that, but also we cannot have unity without accountability. I want some repentance. I want these people to be like, yeah, it's just a game. Like I just called Republicans fascists and all. I don't even know what that word means. I just use it to rev up people because I want to get people to the polls, and the DNC pays me. I want people to be honest about this stuff. And if you're not going to be honest, I'm just going to be eternally side-eyed at you the whole time, for the rest of my life. The rest of my life. The only person who said like stuff that made any sense about this that I saw on the left, really, sincerely, like what I want to hear is John Fetterman. Mr. I had a stroke. Good night, everybody. When he was on the debate stage, and people say it was like he reset or whatever. And people were angry at him. For his comments. I'm trying to find what he said. He had an interview, and there's so many folks upset on the left at John Fetterman. By the way, empathy is why immediately on October 8th, you had people blaming Israel for the attack that they suffered by the hands of Hamas, because they have empathy for the Palestinian people, but they can't have empathy for Israel because they see them as the oppressors, because they see them as the colonizers. And I'll tell you this, I was really disturbed by the sort of commentary that was coming online and other different places during that time, because I'm like, okay, if you can justify violence because these are the colonizers, y'all been calling white people colonizers for years now. As a slur against people or whatever. So if it's justifiable to attack colonizers, like basically all white people are on notice, So it's not going to just stop with them. Like, they want to continue the violence in other places. So I'm not. I don't know if I'm totally surprised about the reaction with Charlie Kirk and stuff, but it is really disheartening. But John Fetterman, he was like, no, Trump's not a fascist or whatever.
When I represent a state like Pennsylvania, that keeps you honest. And you always can't forget that a lot of Americans happen to disagree with you. That does not mean that they are fascists or now they want to shred the Constitution.
But when you hear some Democrats saying Trump is acting like an autocrat.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. If you actually compare him to an actual autocrat, that is not just that. Now, last night, for example, people were complaining. They were protesting about, oh, that's the Hitler thing. You just don't ever compare anyone to Hitler and those kinds of extreme things. Now, look what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, the man was shot. Now, we have to turn the temperature down. It's like we can't compare people to these kinds of figures in history. And this is not an autocrat. This is a product of a democratic election. It's like I participated in that. It was safe and it was secure. We lost. And the America people put us in the minority. And now that's democracy. And I revere democracy. I may not like the outcome, but I have to respect that. And I have to find and work through this. And that, I do believe that's what's appropriate.
So you don't think that Trump is at all shattering any of the norms of democracy in any way?
I'm saying he's definitely different, but that's what America voted for. Again, I don't agree with many of these things, but that does not make him an autocrat. That does not make someone or, compare him to people like Hitler and these other outlandish things.
So That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. No, Trump's not Hitler. No, Trump's not a fascist. Like I heard Bernie Sanders said some nice words. I haven't brought myself to like watch a video. He just did that whole oligarchy tour or whatever. I want apologies, but they didn't change after the baseball shooting when their own colleagues nearly died. So I don't think they're going to change after Charlie Kirk. This is a real shift in the country. This is a real shift. And I'm glad for like I think revival's breaking out. I'm glad that people are going to church, people reading their Bibles. There's this one guy, he's really, really smart. His name is Cam Higby, I think. And he has a lot of followers on like TikTok and stuff. He's on X too. And I knew he wasn't a Christian, but he said that I think he said that he went to church yesterday and he was going to read the Bible. And he said, I'm closer to become a Christian now than I've ever been. My heart's so blessed to hear that. Charlie Kirk would be so happy. One of my mutual friends did a video and they're like, if God whispered to Charlie Kirk and told him what was going to happen, but still told him that like all these people were going to be saved and come into the kingdom because of it, he said Charlie Kirk would have still walked outside with as much joy as he normally has. And I'm like, I think that's true. I think that's true. But there's people so mad at John Fetterman. They're like, LOL, Hitler was elected too. Like, okay, that person doesn't actually know history. He'll never be reelected. Hitler was a product of the Democratic election. Yeah, don't really know much history, guys. There's a lot of people talking about the replies. Dude's an idiot. Some people want him to change parties. Some people said wise words. Someone said, I hate that I supported Fetterman. Just there's a lot of negative comments from his side for sure. Because they don't want someone to tell them the truth, but someone needs to tell them the truth. And it needs to be someone other than John Fetterman. Wouldn't it be so nice if Obama was like, knock it off? Like, or Bill Clinton was like Bill Clinton had some words, about, it's like, oh, I'm sad to hear about what happened to Charlie Kirk, and, we can't do violence. I'm like, okay, well, are you going to tell your wife to apologize for the stuff that she said? And when Obama had a statement, I don't know if he's come out with a new statement since then, but at the time when Obama put out a statement, he's like, well, we don't know who did this, but I'm like, okay, well, we know now. It was a radical left lunatic. People are so mad that Donald Trump keeps saying radical left lunatics. Well, it was a radical left lunatic. There might be more. They're investigating. They got the cyber evidence and they're looking through it to see if it's some kind of trans terror cell or something. So there could be other lunatics involved. But when there's people cheering it on, it kind of looks like it's just radical left lunatics. If you're cheering on someone being assassinated for speech, yeah, you're kind of a lunatic. I'm sorry. That is so weird. That is so unhinged. But be mad at Trump. Be mad at Trump. Not all the people who lied to all these people made him crazy throughout the whole entire years. So, anyway, that's my show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope you guys had a good weekend to refresh. And oddly enough, so much of this Charlie Kirk's, I think, has distracted me from tomorrow's the anniversary of my mom passing. And I don't know. I plan to, I'll be live and all my stuff. I know I can't go late because I'm going to go out to dinner with my sisters. and then we're gonna go see Demon Slayer. And I think my mom would have liked Demon Slayer. I think she wouldn't have liked some of the characters who are loud and whiny, but she liked action and she liked fighting and stuff. She watched a couple animes and stuff. I think she really would have liked Solo Leveling because it's pretty fast and a lot of good action and stuff. So I think she would have liked that. But you know, I was reflecting on, because it's just how difficult death can be and how it affects you. In so many different ways. And for people just to not be able to understand what all those people witnessed or to have more compassion for his family, it is really sick. It is really sick. So we got, hearts and minds need to continue to change. But again, I'm not willing to unify with these people until they act better. That doesn't mean I'm going to take up arms and we're going to go Hatfield and McCoys. That's not what that means. But it just means I can't find any sincerity in their words, I guess. Until something changes, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on the website. Articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream and run the site and all that stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. I will continue to post. People might ask, like, how long are you going to talk about Charlie Kirk? Probably forever. This is not a small thing that has happened, guys. I'm not kidding when I think it's one of the most significant things that's ever happened in my lifetime. People are going to be talking about Charlie Kirk for a long time. I know the media is going to want to try to move on from it as fast as they can. You know, just try to do their drive-by, you know, attacks on Charlie Kirk, poison the minds of people. That's not what's going to happen. We won't let it. I won't let it. I won't let it. And I hope you won't let it either. So I'll be talking about it a long time. I'm not going to do like full entire shows, the rest of my stuff about Charlie Kirk. We'll see what other news is going on tomorrow. You know, I imagine I'll probably say some stuff about my mom. But yeah, it's going to be a topic for a minute, especially as the trial goes on and there's details. I think the actual arrest is happening tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still going to be a lot of updates. But anyway, thank you for your prayers from a family and so on. But yeah, support. You guys can support the website. I encourage you guys, like this painting behind me, I'm in my sister's studio. She so kindly let me use it today. Go check out her work. Go check out her work. She's got paintings, like she's got little teeny painting. There was a little teeny one on the desk somewhere. Oh, it looks all green though. I don't think it's a real. Yeah, it's just green. She has all these little teeny tiny paintings. She has bigger paintings like this, even bigger paintings than that. A lot of beautiful stuff. She has text portraits. I'm not gonna pull them all up. I've shown you guys stuff before, but I don't know. Tina, do you post a link in the comments for your stuff? Let me pull it up. I'm trying to pull up a banner with her website on it. Yeah, that's it. That's her website that you guys can check out. All right, guys, I'm gonna take this call. I'll see you later. Goodbye.